Hey, so in this video, I'm going to share 7 facts you may not know about having 501c3 status as a nonprofit. Let's get into it. Hey y'all, this is Tiffany with Boss in a Budget. I help people start their nonprofits, but more importantly, I help you raise money to start your nonprofit. If you need help with starting your nonprofit, make sure you're subscribed to this channel because I drop videos every single week. And today I wanted to do a quick video to share some maybe unknown facts that you didn't realize about 501c3 status. A lot of people may be confused about what that means versus what it means to be a nonprofit. So I thought I would share at least 7 different facts to help you understand the status better. So the first fact you probably should know if you've watched a lot of my videos, but you may not understand that within 501c3 status, there are different types of nonprofits. These are not the only types of 501c3s, but these are the main 2 types. You have a 501c3 public charity and you have a 501c3 private foundation. And the main difference between those two is rules around where your money comes from. If you are a public charity, then you're getting the majority of your money from public sources, from individuals, from government entities. If you're a private foundation, you're not necessarily required to have money coming from a lot of different sources. It can come from 2 to 3 sources, including your family. And there are different ways that you're taxed and different ways you have to report your income based on the type of 501c3 organization you are. So you may not have realized that, but when you're applying for 501c3 status, you need to make sure that you're selecting the right type of organization so that you don't run into any issues later on. So here's the second fact that you may not have realized. If you are designated as a church, you are automatically designated as a 501c3 organization. You automatically have 501c3 status. So what does that mean, automatic designation? That just means that you don't necessarily have to fill out the paperwork that other nonprofits have to fill out in order to get their status. So you do not have to fill out the 1023 form in order for the IRS to deem you a 501c3 organization or deem that you have the status. But here's the thing. If you like to apply for that status, then you absolutely can. It's just that you don't have to. So a lot of churches do that in case they want to show their parishioners and their donors that, they actually have the status. They want to have a letter to confirm that. Then you absolutely as a church can do that, but you don't necessarily have to. So the third fact is around lobbying. So in order to be designated as a 501c3 organization, you have to agree to some things. And one of those things is that you cannot do a significant amount of lobbying or endorse a political candidate. But you may be surprised to hear that you can do some lobbying. What do I mean by lobbying? In the simplest terms, it just means that you are influencing a legislator or talking with a legislator to influence a law that's going to be put in place. So you may be having meetings with them to tell them your take on a legislation or to influence how they write legislation. So a lot of times 501c3 nonprofits have sister organizations that are designated as 501c4 organizations that have less restrictions on lobbying and participating in political activities. But again, you may be surprised to hear that you actually can do some lobbying even as a 501c3 organization. It's just that it has to be a small part of your budget. It's the amount that you do. So you got to be careful with how much you do it. And that's a nuanced conversation. So what I'm going to do is link some articles below just so you can do more research and you can really talk to the experts if you have questions about that. Number 4 is so important, so please listen up, especially if you have recently acquired 501c3 status. So the IRS will automatically revoke, meaning take away your 501c3 status if you do not file your 990 tax form 3 years in a row. So what happens with a lot of people is that they get their 501c3 status and then life happens. They don't really do a lot, or they may be doing such a small amount of work that they don't think that they need to submit any paperwork because they don't think that the IRS will care or notice. But what happens is if you're not sending in those tax forms, 3 years in a row, they're going to yank your status, and you're going to get a letter in the mail telling you that your status has been revoked, and it's also going to go on their website. So when people look up to see and confirm that you have 501c3 status, it's going to be listed there that your status was revoked. So it's really important that as soon as you get your status, you keep track of certain deadlines just to make sure that you're following all the rules and you're keeping everything in order for your nonprofit. So if you need help keeping track of your deadlines, I have a link to a nonprofit compliance checklist. So it's a free checklist that I've put together to help you keep track of all the different deadlines at the state level and at the federal level. So fact number 5, you may not realize it, but bylaws are actually not required by the IRS when you're applying for 501c3 status. So you may be surprised to hear that, because a lot of people will say you got to have your bylaws, you got to put your articles of incorporation together. But just because it's not necessarily required doesn't mean that they don't see it as good governance or as a good practice. So even though it may not necessarily be required, it's still a good thing to put your bylaws in place. And the other thing I'll say is this: your state may require that you put bylaws in place. So even if the IRS may not require it, your state may require that you have bylaws for your organization. If you need help understanding what the bylaws are or some suggestions for what to put in your bylaws, check out the video that I'm linking above, because that can give you some guidance. And also I'm linking a blog article that I wrote that can help you with that as well. Number 6, you may be surprised to hear that you can actually fundraise before you have 501c3 status. See, a lot of people get confused by this. A lot of people get nervous about this. The key to all of that is this: if you're going to raise money for your organization, just make sure it's an actual entity first. So just make sure if you're going to have a nonprofit corporation that you incorporate first before you start bringing in a lot of money. If you don't do that, the risk you run is that when you're collecting money, you have to be reporting it on your taxes, or your bank may report that you're collecting this money, and the IRS may come after you and require you to pay tax on the money that you collected, even if you didn't spend it for personal reasons or you didn't spend it. Okay, so I actually did a video, which is a warning to you, especially if you're doing like GoFundMe campaigns before you actually have a nonprofit corporation in place. So I really suggest you check it out just to make sure you're covering all your bases. But again, what I'll say is this: you don't necessarily have to have 501c3 status in order to raise money for your nonprofit, but you should at least be incorporated. You do have to disclose to people that you don't have the status or that the status is pending. And you also need to check your state requirements, because your state may require that you have 501c3 status before you solicit funding from other people. So remember, when you're thinking about a nonprofit and when you're dealing with a nonprofit, there are multiple layers of regulations and requirements. So even though the federal government may not require something, you always have to check with your state government and make sure that you're good. If you want a way more detailed breakdown of this, I actually recorded a video to answer this question, so I'm linking it above. Make sure you check it out. The last fact you may not know about 501c3 status is that you can actually earn money, so either selling a product or charging for a service, when you have 501c3 status. A lot of people hear the word charity, or they see that you have a charitable purpose, and they shy away from thinking that nonprofits are actually businesses. But you still have to run, you still have to earn money, and money doesn't just have to be money that's given to you or granted to you. You can actually earn money by providing a service, like doing a training or providing therapy sessions and charging people for them, or selling a product. The kicker is this: you need to make sure that if you're going to spend a lot of your time doing that, that it's related to your charitable purpose. If it's unrelated, you're going to have to report that information to the IRS and potentially be taxed on the money that you make. So I did another video on this to break this down when I talked about earned income strategies. So check that video out too, just to make sure that when you want to go down this road, that you're doing everything that you need to do. And also, it's really good to check with an accountant, because it's an accountant that's going to help you report this information. So it's good that before you go down this road, that you check with them first, that you're all on the same page, and then you move forward. So are any of these facts surprises to you? If they are, please drop them in the comments. I just love to hear from y'all to see how you're learning or what you knew or what you didn't know, all that kind of stuff. I want to hear from you all. If you need more intense help, you need a one-on-one consultation, you can reach out to me. I have boss up sessions where we go through an issue, we tackle the problem, and we work it out together. If you also just want to learn more about nonprofits, you can always visit me at www.bossanabudget.com. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video.